Okay. Yeah.
Oh, they do it at the end of the year. Oh, so hopefully they'll have. All right, that'll be good. I'm through, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you. And then Mr. Cardinale is signed up to speak as well. Just a minute. We've got to sign this thing.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Matthew Cardinale, news editor of AtlantaProgressiveNews.com. You know, there's a lot of things that I would like to talk about, but I know there's not enough time, so I'm just going to focus on a couple things that I think are timely and pertinent. As you may know, HB 397 was a bill that went through the legislature, was signed by the governor to amend Georgia's Open Records and Open Meetings Acts. And I'm hopeful that as time goes by that I'll be able to provide more thoughts that I have and just making sure that council members are aware of some of the new provisions under the Act. But one of the things that I really wanted this committee to think about, if you haven't already, is that there is a provision under the Act that gives agencies the option of adopting or appointing a public records officer. And this would be a single person who would be responsible for coordinating all the public records requests and the response to those requests. Ms. Moore, you may remember a couple years ago I was shocked to learn that that's not what Ms. Dauphin-Johnson was. So now the law provides for it. I had hoped that the law would mandate it, but it gives the option. But I think it would be a good option for this city to pursue because it reduces the amount of training, the amount of people, and the amount of questions, and is beneficial, I think, to citizens because then there's only one person to go to and not have to get into questions about who is the right person. So I would urge this council to think about that. Secondly, I have just been observing some of the interactions with between council members and City Attorney Cathy Hampton, and I have a couple concerns. And in particular, Ms. Moore, not to keep bringing you up, but I'm not happy with some of the ways that I have observed Ms. Hampton responding to some of your questions. And I really, when we talk about that the city attorney is supposed to work for the city and for the council, and I have a couple different instances where I feel that you could have gotten an answer or should have gotten an answer but didn't receive one. In one instance, dealing with the airport contracts, there was a situation where I believe Peter Andrews, had stated at one point in a transportation committee meeting that the scores from the bids could be available to the public. And at one of, I think the last meeting where you all voted on the airport contracts, Ms. Moore, you said something like, Didn't you say that the scores would be available? Now, previously they had already explained that Ms. Hampton had asked that they go to the Attorney General. The Attorney General had provided an opinion, so the city attorneys had changed their position. But the point is, Ms. Moore, you said, didn't you say that that's what that the scores could be available? And she said, no, ma'am. But now, maybe that's technically true because it was Peter Andrews who said it, but I think the appropriate answer would have been, no, ma'am, that wasn't me. I believe you're talking about Peter Andrews. Okay? And there was another recent example. I was bothered when you were talking. You had a question about going into executive session. I wrote about this on Atlanta Progressive News a little bit. And you were, I think any reasonable person should have understood what your question was, which was, is there a way to make sure that when we go into executive session, we're only talking about things that have to be private? And I think that's a great question that could have and should have been addressed. So, you know, it bothers me when we have city attorneys who are either not responding, or I believe not responding appropriately. And this goes back to why I believe that the city council should have their own attorney, their own legal counsel, and that continues to be something that I'm going to push for. So thank you very much for your time.